So this is Trowahc, and welcome to another episode of Greenlight It, a little opinion video I do where I sift through the crap of Steam Greenlight and show you a game that's worth your upvote. The game we'll be looking at today is Edge of Space, a builder-style game very similar to that in the vein of Terraria and the fact that it's a 2D building game. First and foremost, obviously, when you first look at this game, just like I did, I pretty much went, ugh, Terraria clone. It is by far not that, in any way, shape or form. It takes the core mechanics of Terraria, yes, and it's on a 2D plane, but it blows Terraria out of the water, in my opinion, in terms of the mechanics that it brings in, the update in the graphics system, and just generally the ideas that it had over Terraria. It really does take the next step, I believe, or what I believe Terraria needed to do in order to make a Terraria 2.0, if they were ever going to do that. Also, with the recent controversy with Terraria being ported to the consoles, with having new exclusive content that will not be shared on the PC version at all, I feel like Edge of Space is a good alternative to those gamers who want to play Terraria, have been sort of upset by the fact that, you know, they're not going to get any new content for the PC version of the game, and are not going to spend money on buying the console game, because why would you? You already have the game. Why would you buy the game again just to get some exclusive content, which may or may not be any cool at all? So here's a game that takes what Terraria is in its core essence, and then again expands out and makes new things and more interesting things, in my opinion. So I'm just going to quickly go over the key features. There's an open world, dynamically generated sandbox. I feel like in Edge of Space, it's going to be much larger than what Terraria was, obviously, because they're talking about a much larger area in general, being a Bermuda Triangle in space with a lot of asteroids, so there could be a lot of asteroid jumping between, you know, certain areas. Could be portals, could be like different levels loaded up at exactly the same time that you need to load in. Plus, of course, there's another feature that I will get to later that sort of extends upon the fact that I believe that this game is going to be much larger in its map, or in its scale at least, because of that. There's going to be reactive environments, there's going to be events and terraforming in the game. The events could probably be anything like, you know, if you mine a very green and lush planet, maybe the green and lush areas will die out around the hole, or maybe they'll start to grow over into the hole. That's another option. Or, you know, you might essentially disturb a nest of, say, a certain type of creature in the game, and therefore these creatures now will spawn there much more and be more ferocious and defensive against you, because you've obviously disturbed their nest. It's fast-paced combat and intense action. Well, it's in space, you know, so you've got laser guns, you've got everything like that, so... But they're you know, stating that you're not going to just sit still and just keep swinging your sword. You obviously got to shoot stuff. You've got to be doing dodging, healing, flying, setting traps, and thinking quick on your feet. But again, like I said, it's going to be, you know, you're going to be using a lot more laser beams, which probably means the enemies are going to be much faster than in what they are in Terraria. They're probably going to have ranged attacks, so you're always going to be dodging attacks. You're always going to be trying to dodge their charge abilities if they've got them, that sort of stuff. Vaulted servers, stored characters, and open servers that allow you to bring in your character. This is a really cool and interesting system, I believe, because obviously, A, they're going to allow you to keep a character and move it from different servers. So, for example, you could be playing at home on one character, and then say want to join a friend on his sort of server, or on his, you know, remote server that he created on his own, and you can take that character over with you. I believe this could have been done in Terraria, but also the fact that they have open servers as well. So they have servers that you can go into, very similar to what Minecraft has, where you can just log into a server as long as it's open and available for you, and you can do whatever you want in that world. You don't have to do it in your world and then try to, you know, repeat it in somebody else's world or something like that. You can just go to a server. You don't even have to play single player. You can literally just go to a server and do what you want, very similar to Minecraft, which is something I didn't know if Terraria had, but I'm not sure if it did, but I don't remember it ever having it. So that's something new, and I feel like that's definitely going to keep the community going a lot more in Edge of Space than it ever did in Terraria. Deep exploration elements, so the thing is they're going to have like things like rare recipes and lost technology scattered around the map. That seems very interesting because obviously one map is going to be completely different to another. It's possibly going to be very similar in terms of like Borderlands, where both of you may load up a special lost technology that both of you have to find, but it's going to be in different locations, and it's going to be different technology. So where you might get a really cool weapon, somebody else might get a really cool armor piece, or somebody might get a really cool, you know, rare mineral that you can't actually mine, or anything like that. One of the big things that drew me when I was reading through these key points, vehicles, that's something I've always felt Terraria has needed. I would have loved to have had being, even if it was a spell, like you summoned, say, a unicorn or a griffin, and then you were able to use that to travel quickly through the map. So you didn't have to just jump over people and everything else. You literally could just ride a unicorn or ride a griffin to fly up. But obviously vehicles. But the big thing that pulled me, mechs. I'm a huge mech lover. I love mechs. As soon as I can get my hands on this game in any way, shape, or form, first thing I'm going to be doing is grinding enough to get the mech and try it out, because I'll put a link to a video of them showing off the mech, but it just looks awesome, I have to admit. And this is only, you know, alpha sort of first concept look, so it's obviously completely subject to change, but what they already have, I just love automatically, so I'm just so interested to see what else they could add in, or what other mechs they will add in. Also in that, obviously, this being a mining, or, you know, like a mining game very similar to Minecraft or Terraria, these vehicles, they could have utility vehicles, they could have miners. This is something else that Terraria never had, that you obviously had to build a pickaxe and then go mining yourself. In this, you could have miners, you could have maybe even automated vehicles, like bots or something that could do it for you. That's an interesting concept, and they haven't said they're going to do that. It's something I think at least the mining one, where you control the vehicle, that would be cool. But also having like robots, you know, would be an interesting thing as well. Loads of armors, weapons, and variations on each. So obviously they're going to go somewhat down the Borderlands kind of idea, where they're going to, I don't know whether they're going to randomly generate it, but you know, they're obviously going to have similar weapons, like 2 shotguns, but they have different properties. Like one might do poison damage, one might do freezing damage, as an example. They're also stating here they've got co-op weapons. So 2 weapons that used in conjunction create a special effect. That seems really cool. That, you know, it's sort of almost a don't cross the streams sort of idea, but it's sort of you want to cross the streams sort of idea of that, you know, if you've got a certain weapon and then they've got a certain weapon and you combine them together, you get a very interesting effect that maybe does a ton of damage. But adding into that in terms of the weapons and the armor, I kind of hope that maybe not only do they allow for different weapons, like for one weapon to have a poison damage effect on it, and then some weapon to have a cryo damage, but also maybe that you are allowed to create certain types of ammo, where like you can take a basic weapon that doesn't do as much damage as, say, one of these more higher up weapons that does cryo damage automatically or does poison damage automatically, but you're able to, say, take a standard weapon, put cryo ammo into it, and then you get a similar effect but less than the actual the better weapon. I think that would be kind of interesting, and it would make a bit of a change from Borderlands, in my opinion, as well, because obviously people could look at that and go, oh, look, you know, they're doing the Borderlands thing where they're just, you know, making a shotgun that does poison damage or does, you know, fire damage or does freeze damage or whatever. So, you know, allowing you to switch up your ammo but keep the same weapon, you know, might be able to differentiate itself just a little bit more, or enough that they can go, hey, this is actually a kind of a cool system because I can load up freeze ammo, freeze the guy, and then load up poison ammo and then poison him while he's frozen, as an example. They've got hordes of enemies and epic bosses. Well, Terraria had this as well. I'm assuming they're going to do a very similar system to that, of where you're going to be able to summon these big bosses once you've defeated them, maybe. Or maybe they'll just be respawning ones where they just always spawn in that location. That's where they're found. You try and stay away from it, and, you know, every 20 minutes, because every 20 minutes it respawns. So you can go back to the same area and kill it again if you want. They might do it that way as well. It's an option. Unique crafting and tons of things to craft. Again, very similar to Terraria. They're obviously adding in a little bit different in terms of being able to find rare recipes that you can use. So that's obviously going to be something a little bit more extending upon the crafting system. And obviously, you know, being much more of a multiplayer game in that sort of sense, you might be able to even trade rare crafting recipes, or even able to say, like, I can make this, you can make that, why don't we trade? I'll make this, you give me the minerals, and I'll make this, I'll give you the minerals, and you make that sort of idea. They've got a unique power grid system. Now, this is something that's very interesting to me because, obviously, you know, again, it brings into the idea of the exploration. You know, lost technology might be behind a vault that you need to power down its defense systems, unlock the door with, you know, actually rerouting the flow of energy in the power grid to, say, stop power going to the defenses and stop it going to the lock, so that you can then open up the door and go in. But this same system could also be utilized in other things that I think builder games have probably needed a lot more. Now, obviously in Terraria, you had every night, you went into zombie horde mode, where just hordes of zombies would come in and knock on your door and try and break down your door, and you'd have to defend your base off every night. That, to me, got tedious. Edge of Space might have something similar, but you could possibly add in things like defense turrets that you then power up with a power grid system that you could install. And randomly, you know, a power grid system could fail for whatever reason, so you have to reroute power. So you're going to have power management, you're going to have maintenance, you're going to have other things like that. And that, to me, would seem pretty interesting, because you could be off mining and then you have to go back, even though you've spent 3 whole nights mining. You know, eventually your power grid has decided to blow a transfuser for whatever reason and stuff like that. And it might be completely random, it might happen regardless. So there could be a maintenance system to it, you know, that you have to do, come up and check every couple of days to make sure it's not going to blow and you know, shut down your power grid. But then also, you know, you're going to have power grids like lights. You can have lights instead of having torches that you make every time. You could create a light and then have a power energy source to it, so that it lights up every night, turns off every day, that kind of stuff. So it sort of saves having to have torches working around the place and everything else like that. An integrated IRC chat client. This is obviously a given if they're going to have open servers that you can move into and from. But one thing, obviously, that's really cool is, obviously, you can talk to your friends when different servers while in-game, instead of having to go out to the Steam client, you know, pause your game and then do that. You can, you know, do it while in-game. It's a little more convenience. I don't think it's necessarily 100% needed, but it's a cool addition easily. Now, this is the big reason why I really think this should be on Steam. Edge of Space should be on Steam. And the whole reason why I think this is going to be a brilliant alternative to Terraria is mega modding support for creation of items, tools, weapons, creatures, and events after release. So in essence, the developers are basically throwing the development tools at the community. And this is something I think all games should be doing. You know, if you want your game to have longevity, regardless of whether you are a co-op, single-player, multiplayer game, one big thing needs to occur every time. You can have the greatest game in the world, but if no one plays your game and continues to play your game because they're interested in playing your game, then eventually you're going to die out. And allowing for modders to mod your game, bring in items, bring in tools, weapons, creatures, events, and everything is just going to make the community stay longer. It's been proven time and time again. Why do you think games like Counter-Strike 1.6 are played so much? And why do you think we even have games like Counter-Strike? Because the modding community saw a great game in Half-Life, had a great idea, built a great game, and now it's one of the most commonly known esports in the world. It's very simple, you know. Give the community the tools to create their own fun, and the game will last for almost eternity. You know, as long as there are creative people still making content, people will still play the game. This is the whole reason why Terraria here is basically getting the controversy it has. They've basically gone, well, we're not going to give you out the tools. Or at least as far as I know, there isn't enough tools out there. There is some workshop stuff that I've seen, but I don't think there's enough out there. And yeah, basically in the end, you know, the developers have basically said we don't want to bring any more content to the PC version. Have now made or given the rights to another company to make a console version with exclusive content. Giving all these tools to the community can take the people who are interested in making games, interested in making mods and tools and everything else, and just go nuts and create really interesting, cool things. And then people will download them, people will play them, and people will want to continue playing them. And especially being able to create events. You know, there's things like, you know, you could change up the map so much that you could have Halloween events on your server if you have, you know, one available for you to do. That you could have people say, hey, we got a Halloween event, come over and, you know, see all these new events, see all these new tools, these new weapons and creatures we have. You know, you could create an alternate version of a lot of the enemies and just make them with, like, pumpkin hats on, you know, or whatever else for a Halloween themed time. It would just, it's obviously what games need, I should say, to expand their lifestyle well beyond the time of developers going, hey, we're going to move on and create something else. Final point I want to put out there is the graphics. They're much more detailed than anything in Terraria, and in that sense, in my opinion, much more interesting. Especially in some of the screenshots, armor just looks so beautiful. You know, it just looks so awesome. It doesn't take as much of your imagination, essentially, to realize that this is, say, flaming armor, because it actually has animated flames on it. You know, rather than just having a little bit of a spark once in a while. Don't get me wrong, not shitting on Terraria's graphics in any way, shape, or form. I do think they were great graphics. But these are just so much better, and they're just an evolution from, or at least a revolution, I should say, from what Terraria has done, that I think, again, adding into the modding support, that modders and content creators could easily take what has already been done and expand upon it and just make it better. Very, very easily. And that ends another episode of Greenlight It. If you think I'm a raving lunatic and you want to tell me so in the comments, by all means. And if you liked anything that I've actually said in this video and you want to expand upon it more and actually talk about it in a conversation, by all means put it in the comments and we'll continue on with that. And I'll catch you on the next episode, guys. See ya!